Hi, I'm Steve Fisher, Oregon State Director for the Firefighter Cancer Support Network. I'm a cancer survivor, and I'm here to introduce Division Chief Brian Frieders from the Firefighter Cancer Support Network. He is our spokesman, and he's here to talk about taking action against cancer in the fire service. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me. You know, for the last 10 years or so, we've done a really good job of bringing health and safety to the forefront of all of our discussions. What I'm about to tell you today is probably the most alarming thing you're going to hear throughout your career, and that's cancer. Whenever you hear the word cancer, everybody cringes. Nobody wants to hear about it. Nobody wants to acknowledge that it's an issue. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm about to tell you is that cancer is a big issue.
Well, Michael, fighting fires already seems dangerous enough, but according to a new study, the risk of cancer among firefighters is hidden all over the place. In the clothes firefighters wear, in the bays they park their trucks in, even in the buildings well after they put the fire out.
Cancer is an epidemic in the fire service, and the things that we do on a daily basis are killing us. The good news is that with just a few simple provisions in what you do, you can prevent cancer in your organization. NIOSH came out this year with a study that validated the fact that firefighters are more prevalent to cancer. In fact, 1 in 3 of us throughout our careers will be diagnosed with cancer. Let me say that again. Statistically speaking, 1 in 3 of us will be diagnosed with cancer sometime in our career. More than half of us that are diagnosed will die. Palm Beach County, Florida right now, 58% of their active duty members have been diagnosed with cancer. Miami-Dade Fire, 45% of their retirees have been diagnosed with cancer. More than half of them are dead. Cancer is an epidemic in the fire service, and we need to take action against cancer before you become a victim. The Firefighter Cancer Support Network came out with 11 initiatives last year in a white paper that was published. And those 11 initiatives, by the way, which are no-cost items, are simple things that we can do to prevent cancer amongst ourselves. Simple things, like not walking around the fire station wearing dirty turnouts. When I came on 20 years ago, the dirtier your turnouts, the more your helmet was melted, the more moxie you had, the more macho you were. Unfortunately, by wearing dirty, filthy turnouts in the firehouse, exposes all the people that you work with to the same things you were exposed to during an incident. Folks, our traditions and our behaviors and the things that we do on a regular basis are killing us. Let me say that again. The things that we do on a regular basis, not only in the firehouse, but on fireground incidents, are killing us. They are exposing us unnecessarily to carcinogens that have a great impact on our ability to survive. And why do we do that? Because no one stepped up and said it needs to stop. Our behaviors, our traditions, our cultures are killing us. And this is where it stops. In 1993, the IAFF said that 31 firefighters perished from cancer, compared to 98 who perished from cardiovascular disease. In 2013, from 1993 to 2013, more than 300 firefighters have died in the line of duty as a direct result of cancer. More than 300 firefighters have died in that 10-year period from cancer, 168 from cardiovascular disease. Cancer is an epidemic in the fire service. It's time to take action. During our normal operations on the fire ground, there's a significant issue with absorption. The NIOSH study revealed that testicular, prostate, and other cancers of the groin have a higher incidence than the general population. Did you know that your groin area has a 300% greater absorption rate than anywhere else in your body? What's interesting about that is, if you look at any fire station, where is the bunker gear kept and staged ready to go? We call it the pre-deployment staging area, which is right next to the diesel exhaust of the apparatus. Is it really a surprise that we're getting cancers of the groin? Is it a surprise that cervical cancer in women is on the rise? It's because those turnouts are being exposed to all of the benzene and all the other nasty things that come out of a diesel exhaust apparatus. Your flash hood is the thinnest layer of protection that we wear during structure firefighting operations, yet most of us forget to wash our flash hood on a regular basis. Your neck has a 93% higher absorption rate than the rest of your body. And interestingly enough, co-located in your neck are these two big arteries called your carotids, which feed your brain. Is it really a surprise that melanoma and brain cancer is prevalent amongst firefighters? We'd like to encourage all of you to wash your flash hood, wash your helmet liner, things we don't usually do on a regular basis. Take action against cancer. For every 5 degrees of temperature increase in your body during structure firefighting operations, your body's absorption rate goes up by 400%. Let me say that again. For every 5 degrees of body temperature that increases, your absorption rate goes up by 400%. Folks, if your turnouts are dirty, if they've not been serviced, you are putting yourself more so in harm's way than you would be being exposed to the fire. So what do we do? What is it that we can do as firefighters to stop this epidemic from getting worse? What is it that we can do with our operations, with our behaviors, with our culture? If you're a company officer or a chief officer in this room, I certainly hope that the bugles you wear in your collar aren't being used as plungers. Because if you're a company officer or a chief officer and you think it's okay for people to not wear their SCBA during overhaul, you're a failure. If you think it's okay to allow people to smoke and use tobacco products in the firehouse, you're a failure. If you walk by an apparatus and that diesel exhaust capture system isn't attached to that engine and you don't say anything about that, that's a fail. So do you use your bugles as bugles? Are you willing to step forward and say, hey, that's not okay and I'm going to stop this? Or are they just decorative plungers on your collar? Leadership has been taught all throughout this country. There are some experts in leadership that have come up with some fantastic ideals. But what is leadership really in this context? It's about saying, I'm going to stop this. I'm going to take action to prevent this from continuing. You could save your life. Walking around the fire station with dirty turnouts, going into the living quarters with dirty turnouts, period, is wrong. Not using the diesel exhaust capture system is wrong. Not taking a shower, a good thorough shower after an incident is wrong. When you're at the incident, before you get back into the apparatus and drive to the station, decontaminate yourself. Take the hose line you just used for the operations and hose off all the junk that you're wearing before you go back to the station. There's nothing worse than walking back to the apparatus with soot and disgust all over your turnouts, driving back to the station, getting a nice hot shower, coming back and getting a response, and sitting in the same stuff that you brought back from that fire. That's counterproductive. It doesn't make any sense. Thinking it's okay to have a melted helmet and to walk around with filthy, dirty turnouts as a badge of courage, as a sign of machoism, is wrong. Those days are over. Smoking in the firehouse? Duh. I know I talked about these earlier, but let's go through the 11 initiatives that we published in our white paper in 2013. Number 1, use your SCBA, not just during the firefight, but also during the overhaul phase. A lot of us think that it's okay to take off your SCBA during the overhaul phase or use some other kind of respiratory protection that's inadequate. It's not okay. Most of the things that you're going to be exposed to that have cancer in them are during the overhaul phase. Wear your SCBA during overhaul. For incident commanders and company officers, you should be using a fresh crew to begin the overhaul phase and keeping all those that were engaged in the initial firefight out of that process. Do gross contamination in the field prior to leaving the incident. It makes no sense whatsoever to bring the stuff from the incident back to the firehouse or put it in the cab of the apparatus. Hose yourself off using a garden hose or using your booster line before you leave so you can get as much soot and nastiness off of yourself before you get back in the engine or the truck. Utilize wet naps or baby wipes. Most of you should be keeping them on your apparatus. We encourage you to wipe off some of the skin that may have been exposed to the toxins before you get back in and drive to the station. Make sure that you change your clothes when you get back to the station. Even though most of us wear a uniform underneath our bunker gear, it still has the potential to be exposed. You want to put a fresh uniform on after you take a good quality shower, getting rid of all the potential toxins that may exist on your skin. One of the things that I'd never understood is why we transport contaminated PPE in our personal vehicles. Keep your PPE out of your personal vehicle unless it's in a sealed container. This has an application to our floating firefighters or some of our volunteers where they have to keep their turnout gear in their personal vehicle. Make sure that if you do have to transport it, that it's in a sealed plastic container, which will prevent anybody else in that vehicle from getting exposed. After an incident, we're pretty good about making sure that our tools and equipment are clean and ready to go. Let's also make sure that we decontaminate the apparatus cab before we leave the incident. Oftentimes, people traverse the inside and out of that cab during the incident. We want to make sure that we wipe that down and don't expose ourselves after we've already gotten cleaned up and ready to go to unnecessary carcinogens from the incident. Make sure you keep your PPE and your exposed boots out of the living quarters. It is no longer okay to keep your bunker gear next to your bed so you can quickly respond. Keep it in the apparatus bay where it belongs. Stop smoking and using tobacco products. Plain and simple. One of the most prevalent cancers in the fire service is melanoma, which is caused sometimes by exposure from the sun. If you're going to be out in the sun all day long, make sure that you wear sunscreen. Folks, this is reality. This is not a theoretical discussion. Cancer is real. Cancer is here. Cancer is an epidemic in the fire service. If you're a company officer or a chief officer, what are you going to do when one of your folks comes to you and says, "I have cancer"? Your reaction and what you say or do will make a huge difference. A huge difference. If you walk up to them and say, "Ooh, that's too bad. Oh, that's not good," that automatically tells them that they're dead. But if you're supportive and you refer them to Steve and the Firefighter Cancer Support Network, it puts them on a path that provides them hope. And hope, ladies and gentlemen, is everything.